Erev Tov. It is great to see you all. I know that we all feel, I was just at a baseball game on our field, and just seeing parents and talking to people and feeling the sense of gratitude that actually it looks pretty hopeful that we can say that we've made it through this year. Thank God. We're looking at 150 something, closing in on 160 school days. And I don't think there's anybody in this room who was certain, or maybe not even confident, that we would get through 30 or 60 or 90. So I join you in that sense of gratitude for getting to this moment. It really is something that we are proud of, and I'll tell you personally, it's the gratitude that we feel when I seeing people around, seeing kids, seeing parents. And having that gratitude expressed our way is something that we really appreciate. That means a lot to us. And this was a tremendous partnership. A lot of people, the teachers are the center of this story and are the heroes of this year. We're very, very grateful to them. They came into a situation which was very unknown, and they showed up. You came into a situation that was unknown, and you showed up, your kids showed up. We went through some, especially in the winter, a very, very tense time. But thank God, really, Shachianu v'kiyamanu v'giyanu lazman hazeh, to be able to be at close to day 160, and to be gathering together to really talk about next year. I saw Nurse Russi, I saw our high school nurse at the game before, and she gave me a preview. Some people were asking her, what's on tap for tonight? Are we talking about medical policies? And the answer was, and the correct answer is, not really. We're here to talk about next year. We're here to give you some of our thoughts. We're here to use this virtual tool that we've learned over the last 15 months to be able to gather 200 people, pretty quickly and pretty conveniently. Whether you're in your car, on your treadmill, or in your living room, or wherever else you may be, to be able to talk to everybody and to give you a glimpse into what we're thinking about for next year. So yeah, we will talk about some policies, and we'll have some answers some questions that will remain unanswered, because we know that we're still not at the point where we can plan that much ahead. And we kind of wait for the news to catch up, so we could be smarter before we make big announcements. But we also do try to plan with wisdom and with a little siyata dishmaya, hopefully a combination of those two things. I told the teachers at our meeting last week that the theme of the parshiot between last week and this week, the theme of the two parshiot are very much the concept of perspective. It kind of goes south when the Jewish people are only 11 days outside of Eretz Yisrael, and they feel like they have a plan. Then all of a sudden that plan gets diverted, first by the mitonanim, by the people complaining about the man that doesn't taste the right way, and then about Miriam and Aaron complaining about their leadership Moshe is not doing the right things. And then it continues into this week's parsha, where they go into Israel, which we have so much gratitude for, but they find the problems, they find the challenges. And the problem in all three of those things, as Rashi points out, is that the people involved in the stories, for whatever reason, had the wrong perspective, had a negative perspective, had a problematic perspective. So whether it was the perspective on the food that we eat, or on the leaders that we have, or on the land that we're given, or on the blessings that we should appreciate, when they didn't have that perspective, Jewish history was changed forever. And I think that this year, the theme of the year formally was achrayut. I think that the concept of the year was really that concept of perspective, being able to take a challenge, but to try together as partners, parents and teachers and students, to forge through that, to learn from it, and to not just come through, but really to thrive. That doesn't mean that there aren't challenges, but I think that we can all say, I think parents can say this, I'm sure students can say it, I know that professionals can say it, that we've learned a lot from the last 15 months. Doesn't mean that we'd will them again. We certainly wish for easier days and brighter days and simpler days and healthier days. But at the same time, there's a lot that we have learned from it. And what we're trying to do as we think about the future is not to just go right back automatically to what we had, but to think about what we had, what we missed, what we learned, what we don't necessarily miss, and what we think the kind of a 2021-2022 school year can look like. I'm going to put up some slides. I'll try to go kind of back and forth between the slides and our faces. I'm going to stop talking in a couple of minutes and introduce our administrators, Mora Sarah and Mora Beth, to talk about some of the specifics that we're thinking about. Again, this is, we're in the planning season, but we're not done with it. And there's certainly a lot of thought between now and September 1st or whatever day it is. I don't know when Labor Day is next year. I do know when Labor Day is next year. It's Erev Rosh Hashanah. But between now and then there'll be certainly a lot more thought and detailed planning, et cetera. But we're going to try to give you a little bit of a window into what we're doing. I already covered agenda item 1. And I probably covered some of 2. We, like I said, again, the teachers are the heroes of our year. We're very, very grateful to them. We're very excited to have a new building. You talk about some timing. We built the new ELC. We're very grateful to be able to have that new building. First graders were there. The hallways were used so that we can incorporate a first grade. We have record enrollment. You should know that. We have, for next year, we didn't build that building to radically increase enrollment. It was really to catch up on where we needed to be in terms of space. But it is a fact that the institution, including the high school, will have record enrollment. The ELC will have record enrollment. The ELC and the academy will have record enrollment. There's a lot of interest in being part of SAR. We're trying to manage that responsibly. It is what we have called in meetings that I've had with the Board of Ed and with the Finance Committee. These are good problems, but they are challenges. But that's where we are. We're coming off of a year where the gratitude was felt, and actually on the development side, we've seen the most success that we've ever seen in terms of people supporting the school, caring about the values of the school, and wanting to be part of that. So we're very grateful for that. In a word, the silver linings or the lessons that we've learned, kind of back to the basics. I think that everybody in the institution has been confined, is one way of looking at it, but maybe focused is another way of looking at it. And kids have moved around less, not none. Certainly still feels like SAR, and it's felt more that way over the last couple of weeks. But fewer teachers, right? So not fewer teachers, but kind of more focused relationships between students and teachers, a less frenetic pace to the day. Again, that came with some limitations that we want to get rid of, but it also came with some deep relationships that we've heard kids articulate have been positive, that we've heard teachers articulate and parents articulate have been positive, even though they came with some challenges at the same time. It's hard to reflect on the year and not think about some of the challenges, whether those are institutional challenges in terms of making school happen at a time of uncertainty, investing in that, having to make decisions, some that were right and some that were wrong in terms of, getting us to this place, not really knowing from, whether it's a decision about when vacation should be, whether you should close school for Zoom or not, whether you should quarantine a pod. Those were some of the challenges that we had. And like I said, hopefully we were granted the wisdom to make most of the time the right call. I think the community is thinking about, is learning about the, kind of the challenges of coming out of a COVID, 15 months. What does that learn? What can we learn for our schools? What can you learn for our shuls? What does minyan look like? What does learning look like? What does community look like? What does a bar mitzvah look like? What does a wedding look like? Those kinds of questions, I think, are important questions to be asked. And of course, national, international, right? National in terms of Am Yisrael challenges, especially over the last couple of weeks, where we were very much focused on what was happening in Medinat Yisrael and trying to connect with and support and pray for Medinat Yisrael, again, with wisdom, with kindness, with compassion, and with connection. I don't know if it's, I know the government's not been sworn in. I know that it looks like we're about to have a new government in Israel, and God should grant that government the wisdom to make important, correct, and wise and appropriate decisions for the Jewish people and for the world. So that's kind of a quick reflection. I'm going to move us backward a little bit to the detail. I want to say thank you in this space to Sharon and Beth, to Mora Sarah and to Mora Beth for leading the lower school, for going into kind of uncharted territory. with Grace for leading their teachers, for providing support for teachers, for students, and for parents, for thinking about the new, even when the challenge was really just to get through the day and to get through the year, but always challenging themselves to be great, to be great. And that's something that I learned from every single day. So I don't know who's going first, but Sharon and Beth, the floor is now yours, and I will follow. I think I'm kind of moving your slide, so you'll tell me whether you want on or off, but I'm with you.
Thank you, Rabbi Krauss. We're ready for the next slide, and thank you for your leadership to us and to the school. As Rabbi Krauss mentioned, there were some real blessings in COVID that made us take pause. And we thought, what can we do to continue to grow and build on the beautiful learning environment that already exists at SAR, that our teachers worked so hard to create? And we thought about class size and number of students in a class and number of students that a teacher teaches throughout the day. So what we're looking at for next year is 4 or 5, we're still on the others, thank you, 4 or 5 classes per grade with approximately 20 students in each class. These classes are heterogeneous. We believe that every child has so much to contribute to the class. So we consider the social, the emotional, the academic, and this is a core belief of SAR, heterogeneous classes, and a belief in how much we can gain from one another as we build a community inside of our class. The big change is that in pre-COVID, if a teacher taught full-time, with the exception of first grade, where we made this change 3 years ago, teachers could teach up to 44 students during a day, switching, having some kids in the morning and then having other kids in the afternoon. And we thought that we really will continue to gain a lot from having 2 collaborating lead teachers in every class. So we have 1 Limudei Kodesh teacher and 1 general studies teacher, and they are with these kids, owning these kids, knowing them deeply, having the kids feel anchored and less frenetic, not needing to move from place to place. We saw this year this tremendous deep knowledge of the students and of who they were. And, you know, not only did they know like that their student had a dog, they knew the name of the dog and what the dog liked to eat and play. And teachers love that really deep knowledge of the kids in their general world and the way they learn and the way they can feel like a true contributing member to their class community. We're also thinking that with 2 lead teachers in a class, could be a tremendous amount of flexibility in the way they use time and the way they choose to teach and to make learning happen in their classroom. We decided to just walk around the building and casually ask a few kids who were in classes, which were most of them this year, that had 2 lead teachers in their class the whole entire day, what it was like from them. This is casual, it's not a polished video, but I think the kids speak to so much of what we were thinking about, and that it'll be powerful for you to hear from them exactly how they feel about it. So here we go.
It's good to have 2 teachers in the 1T class because you could like switch groups and you learn a lot in both groups and then you switch. I had Hebrew teachers and English teachers. Now my teachers are friends and they make learning fun.
Small groups, it's much easier to pay attention and to share my ideas.
I know my teachers love me because they know me so well and they always give me compliments and a lot of help.
We know each other very well.
Every morning after Tefillah, we have morning meeting. In morning meeting, we greet each other and we play games and we feel like one big community.
This year, because of COVID, I wasn't able to hang out with kids from other classes, but I was able to learn more about my class, my teachers are my friends, and we became one community.
One thing I loved about having 2 teachers in the classroom was that you really get to know your teachers, and like when we're learning one subject and like the teacher for the other subject hears everything, like sometimes they get involved and say what they think, and it helps like build a better family in your class.
I feel like my classroom is my home because my teachers feel like friends and my friends feel like family. School is really fun.
I think they really captured the depth of the relationships that were created this year between students and teachers. Without further ado, Beth is going to continue.
I think also Eli is right. School is fun. Whenever our students take visitors on tours of SAR, that joy factor is a theme that really rises to the top. It is authentic. These excellent ambassadors also mentioned that their classes feel like family. That experience was a driving force in our vision for next year. Anchoring students, as Sharon had described, in a homeroom class allows us to build a strong sense of community. That's what the kids really described in their video, where everyone has something valuable to offer, they feel safe to take risks and be vulnerable, and where they can challenge and support one another. The children next year will be immersed in their classroom communities for daily morning meetings, for davening, for instructional periods. But they'll also have an opportunity to step out of their class spaces and connect with students across the grade for lunch, for recess, for specialties, and when we break into certain instructional groups and for specific subject areas. This is really unique, as you know, to our physical structure. And we really miss that element. We miss learning without boundaries. We're excited to get back to that. So let's take a sneak peek at the schedule. Next slide. These are really broad strokes you're going to see here, but I want to highlight a few important features. Just like this year, which was a completely new initiative for us, we are starting the day with center time. Children will arrive, they're going to go straight to their classes, and for about a half an hour, a little bit more in certain grades, they're going to have a chance to work on activities that are based on or that are building upon the things that they've learned in the class. It's a way to enrich them. It's a way to delve more deeply into the subject areas. Sometimes it's an opportunity for them to work with partners or work with individuals, but it's also a chance to really drive their learning in the morning. It's also time to ground them. In the past, they came right down from the atrium. They got ready for tefillah. After tefillah, they went on with their day. This way, they get to connect with their teachers, connect with their friends, do some work that's meaningful to them, and then begin the rest of the day. It was really impactful this year. And next year will be a take two opportunity. We're really excited to expand on it, to learn more, and to make this a hallmark feature of our days at SAR. Morning meeting and tefillah come next. After tefillah, the kids break into, they come together in a circle, and this is across classes in grades 1 through 5. And it's an opportunity to greet one another and to share from their lives, share ideas that they have about what they're learning, to engage in some games, just to connect and bond as a class. And we always say that morning meeting is like dinner with family. So that is something we're very excited about and will continue. Each grade, you'll notice in the yellow, purple, and green, has designated times for lunch, movement and PE, and specialty. We're going to hear more about each of those in a moment. Within the large blocks of time that you see in blue, that's really for the instructional learning. That's time for partner teachers to decide to carve out the time that they want to spend on all the different content areas. And as Sharon had mentioned also earlier, to be flexible in how much time they want to spend on things and what order that's going to be day to day. And the flexibility is really wonderful because there are times that the kids are very, invested or deeply involved in something. And as a team, as two collaborating teachers, they can decide whether they might want to spend a little bit more time on something and then move on to the next part of their day. So that's something really valuable. And you're going to see in a moment that each of the specialty blocks it's daily. In the past, some grades had 4 specialties, maybe 4 days a week. They had an opportunity to leave the classroom and to interact with kids from other classes. They're going to be doing this on a daily basis. We're going to be dividing into small groups, and it's going to be a great opportunity to really develop relationships with other kids from other classes while exploring things that are really interesting and valuable. Next slide.
Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
I see there was a
sorry, that's me. Sorry.
Yes.
Hold on one second. I'm going to go back in a second. I wanted to just be explicit about one thing in terms of the schedule of the day. I forgot to mention it earlier. So, you know, there's some anecdotal evidence here, not hard data, but you know, our 8 o'clock start time as opposed to 8:20, and our day ending at roughly 3 o'clock, or you know, 3 o'clock this year, or 3:15 with the staggered dismissal, is we also learned from that. So we are going to be starting the day at 8 o'clock, which is a little bit earlier than usual. 5th grade is going to be a shorter day. ELC through 4th grade will be you know, pretty much the same, or maybe a couple minutes of a longer day, but very similar to what we had before. And 6th grade, which we'll talk about, you know, on a different night. And by the way, there is going to be repetition. If you're here, if you're missing ELC or middle school, we'd like for you to come to all 3, but there will be some general information that will obviously be common to all. But we are talking about an 8 to 3 day for the lower school, but we're also bringing back options from 3 to 4. All of our teachers are going to be working on an 8 to 4 day. We've carved out time for collaboration between teachers and for meetings, and obviously, again, bringing back homework club, bringing back a lot of those after school programs, which hundreds of our kids took part in, bringing back aftercare options. Those are all very important to us. And we're very hopeful that we'll be able to do that, so that for people that want the day from 8 in the morning till 4 o'clock, we'll be able to. And we're also, you know, we're talking about an 8 a.m. start, but we understand that it takes time to move 900 kids in. So, you know, probably doors opening 7:55, and everyone expecting to be there by 8:05, 8:08, so that we can really get started with center time in the lower school, and then moving on to other stuff. I want to thank Chaya Fine and Sharon Black for all the thoughtful work on STEAM. And I want to ask them to just present briefly on some of the things that we've been doing, and we're hoping to do for next year. Sharon, are you there?
Okay, I was just unmuted.
Hi, I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. Hi, good evening, everyone. We are very excited to be able to return to our robust STEAM programming in person next year. Sharon Black and I have worked together to create a specialty schedule that will allow all of our elementary school students to enjoy varied, hands-on, and engaging curriculum throughout the year. To facilitate collaboration and small group learning, as Beth just said, each grade will be divided into 6 groups for specialty periods. These cohorts will rotate between teachers and units throughout the year, allowing the students to benefit from the expertise of each of our faculty members. Each student in 1st through 4th grades will have 1 art, 1 music, 1 lit, which Sharon will explain a bit more on the next slide, and 2 STEM classes per week, so 1 specialty a day. And this is actually an increase in STEM time compared to previous years, so we are very excited for this opportunity. All 5th graders will have 1 music, 1 art, and 3 STEM periods per week. And within the STEM classes, all age groups will experience coding and robotics, engineering, and science units at an age-appropriate level. And in addition, 4th and 5th graders will get to enjoy 3D design and learn to work with Google apps such as spreadsheets for data collection and presentation. We are looking forward to continuing our annual Family STEM Day for all elementary school students and their families, as well as Family STEM workshops for 4th and 5th graders that we instituted last year pre-COVID. And I'll now hand it over to Sharon Black.
Okay, thank you, Chaya. So I see a question just popped up as I'm about to go on, and the question is, will specialties be Zoomed next year? And we're so excited and happy to resume our in-person specialty program, where one of the things we did learn from our Zoom year is that it was meaningful for kids to, and we were able to provide teaching from masters from all over the world for them to learn about the arts and experience them. And so we're going to continue that emphasis on masters of the arts through our 3 art studios that are led by master teaching artists, some you know and some who are joining us. And students, it's really like a home run because it's small groups and it's a chance to intermingle with other kids from other classes, and for teachers who are truly invested in the disciplines to share that love with the kids. We're continuing with the Carnegie Hall Link Up program, which we're told will be live next year, and we'll be able to perform at Carnegie Hall and also to join the Lincoln Center Young Performance Program, where our kids perform at Lincoln Center Plaza. And for 4th through 8th grade, we're adding the middle school. For any of you who have older kids, Voice and Choice will be extended next year, and they make more significant choices what they would like to study in art and music. And our lit program, which is a bit of a reinvention of library, is going to be library integrated with Torah and technology, and really a synthesis of the various disciplines to give kids opportunities to think about Torah inside library time as well. So when they're doing fairy tale engineering and considering a solution that the protagonist has encountered, it will likely be a Jewish folktale. And our Gan Ilan gardening program, which is going to be available for students through the lower school grades, which is a wonderful addition, focuses on pasukim and halachot that relate to what they're doing in the gardening. And finally, our grand story time, it will continue for 1st and 2nd grade. And based on some feedback we got from grandparents and how they'd like involvement, we're going to add grand living history in grades 3 and 4. So we're looking forward to taking our successes from this year and moving forward with what was so beautiful before we had our year of COVID.
Thank you, Chaya and Sharon. And this was, I want to again just focus on a couple of things. For those of you that remember the pre-COVID schedule, we used to have phys ed, PE, gym as part of the specialty schedule. We've kind of moved phys ed out of that because one of the things that we learned was that, which we knew, we just did it for the first time, was to make sure that kids are actually at movement and moving every day, not just twice a week. And I'll talk about that in a moment. But Sharon and Chaya are always thinking about how to enrich, no pun intended, their program, how to bring more arts and music and technology and coding and creativity to a pretty packed day when we have a dual curriculum, and working on whether it's strengthening Gan Ilan or making partnerships with a vineyard in Israel, or so many different creative things that they're thinking about to really make the experience for kids special. And yes, we love Zoom for certain things. We look forward to in-person instruction for specialties for the most part. Obviously, again, if you're bringing in a special guest from Israel, that can still happen. But we are moving away. We are certainly planning on. Never say never. Right now, we're planning on moving away from any kind of regular instruction, with the exception of a couple of Hebrew groups that are things that we've done before in terms of enrichment groups and things like that, but almost exclusively away from on a regular basis Zoom instruction. So thank you to Chaya and Sharon for that. And we also kind of simplified, I think, the schedule a little bit. Every grade, if you saw the schedule before, every grade is going to be going to their specialty at the same time. So the whole grade will be out at the same time. They'll be divided. That allows for the groups to be divided in different kinds of ways, assuming that that's permissible, which I believe it will be, so that you can have smaller art groups, smaller music groups, that you can have more choice even for some of the younger kids. And that's been really a hallmark of the growth and the success of these programs with Chaya and Sharon's leadership over the last couple of years. So just again, I know that we're talking quickly, but just to give you a little bit of a window into some of the thought. This is what I was talking about a minute ago. So call it PE, call it movement. The bottom line is that, as you saw on the schedule, maybe I could even go back to it for a second, kids are going to be out every day. So if it's first grade at 11:30, 2 classes will be in the 2 gyms, or in 1 gym, probably in 2 gyms. 2 other classes will be out on the field. We're going to be bringing back the kids in the game, coaches and others, so there's going to be some supervised play time, but you're going to be moving around. And again, we don't want it to be overly structured for kids that want the freedom. That there's going to be that, but for kids that want that additional structure or need that additional structure, that will be there for them as well. And as you see, every day they're going to be going on. Now, when I say movement in phys ed, that doesn't necessarily mean that there won't be a 10-minute break or recess that teachers will schedule during some of these blue times. Obviously, that will happen as well. But when they're out on the field or in the gym for movement in phys ed, they're going to be either with the phys ed department or with the recess coaches, supervised, but moving around. And again, almost every day of the year, it's healthy to go out. You know, when we used to go to Ottawa, we learned that it has to be really, really cold not to go out. So if it's pouring or if it's freezing, like really freezing, they won't go out, but otherwise kids will be out a lot. Jenny unfortunately couldn't be here, but sorry that I'm moving around so quickly. She put together some of these, you know, kind of general descriptions of the program that will be returning and continuing in different grades. And here you have a sense, here it is, here you have a sense of the schedule of the day. It's not going to be 10:20 p.m. in 5th grade. You do not have to come back at 10:20 p.m. We'll fix that. But you get a sense of what the schedule is going to be like. Sorry, I know that you're asking questions in the chat, which I don't see, but I'll go back to focus on them in a minute. I didn't have that much to add, but I did want to talk about space. First of all, the 1st grade is moving back. They were very warmly welcomed into the ELC building this year. We're very grateful that we had it, but they will be moving back into the building. We're going to obviously have less distancing. We're going to be able to use our areas in a more traditional ways. As you see, we're happy with the fact that class sizes will be generally smaller. We used to be going up to 24. We'll be up to 21 in 1st grade with 3 teachers, and we're really hoping to cap at 20 in the other grades of the lower school with 2 full-time teachers. Those are significant structural changes that we think will be better for everyone. Some of the spaces are not going back. My office, I like my new space, and I gave it away to a classroom. I gave my old office to a classroom, so it will remain some kind of classroom. Likely the business office gave away some space to a classroom, and that will likely remain some classroom space. We're going to be moving the IT from the balcony of the gym to some more stable space for them to work out of. Hopefully Becca Glassberg, in her new role as, you know, head of IT and educational technology together, will be working with that team, probably out of the back of the library, so the library could become some kind of media center with lots of different things happening centered there. We're going to be working on the field. The field is due for a redo, so replacing the turf, getting some new playgrounds. Some things will go back to where they were, but actually a lot of the things that we changed are going to stay. We're going to be picking up, if you remember, that space behind the lunchroom. We now have 2 lunchrooms. That's only a few years old. We'll have those 2 lunchrooms that we'll be using again, God willing. Actually, a 3rd lunchroom in the ELC. We'll be using the space behind the lunchroom for some STEM classes, for some art classes, specialty classes, multi-purpose rooms, you know, space that we've been missing for a while. We'll be able to reclaim. We've grown over the last 10 years. We've added about 70,000 square feet, but the last 4 of them we haven't really been able to use them because we were either building or we were going through this pandemic. Quickly about transportation, you heard about the schedule for the day. Busing will be available. I think the busing notice is going out shortly. We have a medical committee. We're grateful to the medical committee. We will continue to ask questions as appropriate. I'll get to that in a second. But, you know, whether it's the free busing that you get from Riverdale or from some of the districts, or the private busing that many people have availed themselves of, we are hoping to have fewer restrictions and to obviously follow the guidelines. Not all of them on transportation are yet 100% clear, but to give you the option to have that busing if you've been using it or if you've been missing it. Aaron and his team have been truly amazing. Aaron's family is living in Israel. He was literally stuck here. Normally he would go home every other weekend. He was actually stuck here for long periods of time, whether it was because the country was closed for the most recent tensions or because of restrictions. He missed very few days. Rabbi Moskowitz was incredibly helpful in the kitchen on days that he wasn't here. And we got able to serve 1,200 boxed meals pretty much every single day. We certainly hope to have the cafeteria back, the lunch periods back. You saw the times. We're still going to old SAR, you know, kind of starting lunch early to be able to get everybody in. But hopefully 1 grade at a time per lunchroom. And again, following the advice, I will say, I think this is okay. Dr. Milner, who's the allergist and immunologist on the committee, actually thinks that salad bars need to come back, and a little bit of old-fashioned germs he's looking for, because there's been so much, you know, so many restrictions that some of the I'm definitely not doing his language service, but some of the regular viruses that need to be going around the world haven't been out there. We'll see obviously how camps fare this summer, and continue to take his guidance, the guidance of the committee in terms of how we serve, but we certainly hope to be back in the lunchroom for 4 days a week. We're excited to bring back school-wide programming, whether it's events on the steps. Again, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to gather 900 people on top of each other at the same time. We're going to be, we're going to be conscious of those things more, probably for a while, more than we were in the past, but we certainly hope that some of the things that we weren't able to have in the same kinds of ways, we will have. And of course, at the same time, to use Zoom. I've never had so many people come to coffee with a principal or come to events like this, or just information sessions like this, where it might be too hard to come out at night, but you're happy to log on at night for 45 minutes. Those, kind of being smart about what's appropriate and what's not appropriate, and also for the special events and being able to we provided live streams before, but I think it's become more of an expectation for almost everything that you do, to be able to offer them. And we certainly see that as an important component of communication, as important service. One of the open questions, which I'm not going to go into now because frankly we're still thinking about it, is what's appropriate in terms of the ability for kids to stream in, to log in. It's hard. It's hard for teachers to teach when they have kids in classrooms and some kids remotely. Obviously, this year was different. We're clear about the fact that it's not okay. I mean, it's okay, but it's not. We can't really accommodate you if you choose to take 2 weeks off and just go on vacation and log in, because that really affects everybody else. But there are times where people, for very legitimate reasons, are not able to be in school. There's some kind of physical limitation. Obviously, when you're sick and you should be in bed, but you could be home because you have to be home, and you want to learn. And my gut is that if kids want to learn, we should be giving them the opportunity to learn, but we have to be doing that in ways where the expectations are understandable, and the impact on other kids and on teachers is reasonable, is not detrimental. So that's one of the things that we need to be considering. Open questions, there's a long list. That's why there's some empty bullets over here, but the big ones, I think, for the lower school are what's going to be happening in September in terms of masking, in terms of distancing for kids who are unvaccinated, which is going to be probably everybody, probably a small chance that in August it will be approved, but certainly we're not going to have fully vaccinated under 12-year-olds in September. We might have that by November. I'm not gonna guess. I think that we're going to learn a lot over the next 4, 6, 8 weeks, and we'll follow the guidance. What we know is that you're going to be surrounded by the adults in our lives who are vaccinated, and then we're going to be approaching vaccination, and we're going to hopefully have very low transmission rates, and then we're going to follow the expertise of the people who will have then 3 more months of wisdom to be able to make those decisions. But obviously that's a big question. And vaccination policies in general, there are legal questions and there are medical questions. Our inclination is that anybody who can be vaccinated should be vaccinated. That's just good policy for the community. At the same time, we know, especially in the 2 to 12-year-old category, there's definitely, there are people out there that have hesitations in figuring out, first of all, what the approvals are, what the recommendations are, what the data is, before we make formal policies. But if I would give you a direction, certainly for over 12-year-olds, certainly for adults, and then as we learn more about the younger kids, it is that we want to have a vaccinated population. We think that's good for the world, it's good for the community, it's good for the school, and we're going to be pushing in that direction. So that's pretty much. I'm going to stop sharing. I think that's pretty much where we are. Just quickly about technology, we have a one-to-one program in the middle school. We'll have one-to-one. We've had one-to-one for everybody this year because there was a need. We're going to be walking that back a little bit. We will have one-to-one availability in 5th grade and 1 to 2. So so teachers will have that available to them as they need them in the lower grades. But pretty much sticking to what we had before, as we and I spoke about Zoom use before. So whether parent-teacher conferences, meetings like this, parent-teacher conference is an interesting one. I think that we'll probably put it out in the survey that we give you in a week or two. I saw someone's thumbs up over there, but I think many parents and teachers thought that was a positive. Maybe not everybody, maybe there needs to be some choice involved. Happy to hear your feedback on that as we try to put it out there to get yours. Let me now look at some of the questions. I'm going to go backwards if that's okay with you. Yes, flu vaccines we've already required, and we'll continue that policy. SAR, we're very grateful that we offered the vaccines the day after they were approved to 12-year-olds. We don't have an unlimited supply. Obviously, whatever we can do to make it easier, we certainly would do. And if the opportunity comes to us again, then we would certainly jump on that, I think. So yeah, the big question about kids mixing in different cohorts. I don't know. I mean, we are going to have classes, so we will have the ability without massive changes in lower school to limit interactions between classes if we have to. I'm really hopeful that we're not going to have to. We're kind of building a specialty schedule, banking on the fact that we're not going to have to, but there's not that much else that would radically change if the guidance would be, you know what, for another month or two, these classes should be separated. Maybe there will be, when classes mix, there has to be more masking. I just don't know. It's just too early for me to, to give you more than I think most of you know. Yes, I will email you the coffee, no problem. Yeah, so I spoke about that, Jennifer, in terms of, we don't know. I think the best prediction is that there'll be some approval for August. The 12 to 15-year-olds came in earlier than most people thought, so maybe that will happen again with the little kids, but not sure. Thank you, Sarah. You like the Zoom school meetings. I appreciate that. Looks like we had, I assure you we wouldn't have 235 people in school tonight, so it's nice to be able to speak to everybody in a way that's more convenient. I think that Rebecca, I think we've all learned about, consciousness around health and not just showing up to school when you could be transmitting a virus in general. I think that that's a sensitivity that the world has now and that we in the school community have now, and we'll certainly try to keep that. We have an incredible team of nurses, Esther and Maggie and Russie in the high school working together, and they've obviously, they've been focused on this virus, but they've also been very connected to families and helping them out. And I think that our consciousness has been raised in general over the over the year. There will be a sensory gym. Again, we're looking at the space that's off the field, and probably another sensory gym, space for OTs in the ELC as well. So there'll be plenty of space for that. We've been talking about that for a while, and it's been hard. There will be some mixing of, again, assuming it's possible, will be some mixing of classes for some math and reading groups, teachers working with each other to be able to do that. When I spoke about zooming in, so I'm not going to go back to that again. Sorry. Yes, the Academy Library, God willing, will be open for children. We are working hard on that, and the library will be open for children, and is an important part of a school. Somebody asked me a question privately about the fact that we're moving from teachers and assistants to 2 full teachers, whether we have the capacity to do that. The answer is our administrators have a big job, but the answer is yes. We are hiring some new teachers for next year. There are always some teachers who have come from our own farm system, so to speak, and some who have come from outside, but and of course we're not fully hired yet. That is always in a big school like this, that's always a process, but we're certainly close to it, and we're very, very hopeful. There will be after school busing options. We'll share that with you as well. And I think I answered. In terms of staggered arrival, I mean, not exactly. We think that between the different entrances and a little bit of flexibility that we'll be able to have, even with the arrival this year, we didn't need the time that we originally allotted them for the dismissal either. So we're going to try to schedule it well. We'll have more buses out there. So we'll probably have maybe, 5-7 minute schedule for, as we get closer to it, we'll be able to schedule it out so there's not too much traffic. But we're not going to have this big chunk of time where, like 30-40 minutes where kids are coming and 30-40 minutes where kids are going. We think that can be closer to 15 or 17 minutes next year, as opposed to the longer Yes, if you're lobbying for parent-teacher conferences on Zoom, I'll send you the survey and you'll tell us that's what you believe in. I mean, I get it. I get it. A lot of people have been talking about that. Yes, there will be team sports, God willing. I'm pretty sure the Yeshiva League is ready to be up and running. You know, we actually tried to get some stuff out for this year, but we weren't able to. But we certainly hope to be able to resume sports. We're very grateful for the sports. I mean, both Mr. Gleason, Rabbi Moskowitz. We had softball that was full. We had basketball over the last, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 weeks that was full, et cetera, et cetera. Dippin' Dots truck. Now we're getting to the important details. I totally appreciate that. We'll get back to you on that. Can you give information about the Pisca program? Yes, happy to talk about the Pisca program with anybody that would like to talk to me about it. Pisca program is a new name for our inclusion program. We really think that it's our job to service everyone. We think that's what we're in the business of doing. So if you whatever you want to consider our local neighborhoods, I'm not going to name them, but if you're part of the SAR community, we want you to be part of the SAR community. We want to make sure that we can teach your children, and therefore we're, you know, whether it's anything from enrichment programs that we have to the Sinai School and any kind of support that people need. We think that for the most part, you know, no school can do everything, but for the most part, it's our job to make sure that people that want to be part of our school can be educated in our school, which is why it's challenging when you have a wait list, and it's challenging when you have, you know, different learning needs. But that's what the Pisca program primarily is about. We're very grateful to Barbara Goshberg for all of her work, and we're very excited for Ora Michelle to be taking over. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for your vote of confidence. Appreciate it. Date 18. Are the Knicks losing yet? Oh, sorry. I'm just a little negative because they're really been losing a lot. Nobody's going to tell me? No one? Okay. Oh, they're tied, so we got to let you go. Okay, thank you. There we go. We will let you go. If there are any other questions, I'll leave it open for another like minute just to see if there are any questions. And I really appreciate everyone's time. And like I said, if you have ELC kids, middle school kids, you're going to be seeing me again if you show up. We're going to try to obviously make it, you know, kind of the core of it focused on the different departments. And that's why we decided to do it in 3 different nights. There was an argument to do it in 1 night, but then it would have been a lot of information. So this is how we did it. Hopefully that worked for you. Transportation from Queens. Let's talk about privately. Middle school dismissal, 4 o'clock, 8 to 4. Thank you for your kind words. Yeah, I think we can circulate the slides from tonight, and then we'll take out some of the, you know. Yeah, I think we can. Yeah. Okay. We have our 8th graders at Moshava. That's exciting that we have kids on a trip. We have graduation coming up. Lots of nice things happening. By the way, we haven't changed. There's some rules that would have changed probably over the last week or so, but it kind of feels like, you know, we got to this point. We have 10 days of school left. We're going to stay the course and then, you know, and then start a new year fresh when we come back in the fall. Town Hall on June 7th and on June 8th for those that want middle school, June 7th, the ELC June 8th. All right, guys, I think that's a wrap. Thank you very much. Have a great night. Go Knicks. The other town halls will be, Yael, you can write it down if you remember it. You can say it. They're not all at the same time. One of them, I just don't remember.
One is 7:30 and one is 7.
So you'll check your mail. One is 7:30, one is 7. We have a board meeting that night. It's a busy season. Thanks for your kind words, everyone. Thank you all. Thank you all.
ELC is 7, middle school is 7:30.